I was at the Park Rose Transit Center Max stop off 102nd. I had a lot of internal bleeding from my leg injury, so I elevated on the bench. All the blood loss made me nauseous, so I ended up throwing up all over the concrete in my t-shirt. At some point, somebody must have called the police because they showed up and snatched me up and asked me if I was responsible for all this. They told me this was private property and I can be arrested for this and they should make me clean it up. After he spoke for a few minutes, I explained to him I'm not an alcoholic. I don't even like alcohol. Then I told him my story. The officer felt bad for me, and he offered to take me home. I told him right now I actually don't have a home. He then offered to take me anywhere I wanted to go. The thing is, I had nowhere to go. We have a housing problem, and I experienced it firsthand. I went to school to be a fireman. I got my fire science, my associates in fire science, my EMT, my paramedic, graduated 4th out of 72 in my class. I was on my way. Then I tear my leg apart in a training exercise. So we got a fire truck parked the perfect 100 meters from the engine. I have to grab 200 pounds of hose with 80 pounds of equipment on and run across this wooden plank. And my foot punctures right through the plank on the run, goes right through to the ground while my other foot stays on top and pop my tendons, all kinds of stuff. So a bunch of the firemen, they grab me and they pull me out and they like, walk it off, Poole, walk it off. We call each other by our last name. And I tried to take a step, buckled, fell down. I was in pain, was rolling over. They start stripping my clothes off. I pass out. I wake up in the hospital, and I'm speaking to the nurse. She's telling me how lucky I am to be alive. I almost bled to death with internal bleeding. No blood actually left my body, and I still almost died from that. I remember laying on my back, my legs elevated on the sling, and I'm looking at it. It's huge. I mean, my toes look like Professor Clump. I mean, it's purple, and all I remember thinking is, yeah, I wasn't walking that off. 9 months I'm in the hospital. 9 months I have to have my leg elevated above my heart for 16 out of 24 hours a day, okay? During that time, I lose everything I own. My apartment, I get evicted. My family helps me put all my stuff in a storage unit, and then I can't keep up on the payments, so my storage unit gets taken away. My car's repossessed. Everything I have, I own is gone. I get out of the hospital, and I'm on crutches for 12 months, okay? And when I get out, I got nothing. I mean nothing, except the clothes I went in and a few things from my mom's house. And to be honest with you, I wasn't even tripping. I was happy. I'm out of that hospital, and I can finally get back into the real world. So I got a lot of family and friends also trying to take care of me. They if I need anything, they got me. Friends, family, other firemen, even teachers was coming through with stuff. But how long do you think that lasts for? Seriously, I mean, how long do you think it go from that's Tyrone out there. Tell him to come on in. I ain't seen him in forever. Man, how you been doing? Wear your leather jacket. It's cold outside. Oh, you lost that leather jacket? Them your only shoes? Come on, man. Let me give you a couple pair of shoes. These Jordans, you can have these. I'm serious. You can keep those. Here you go, $100 too, just in case. And always call me if you need anything. 2, that's Tyrone on the phone? All right, man. Tell him he can come over here and take a shower. He can do 1 load of laundry, that's it, and not using the good stuff either. And I know he's hungry, but he ain't eating none of our food. And I know he walk all the time, so if he's thirsty, tell him he can, don't touch my Sunny D. If you're thirsty, you can finish that purple stuff in the back. Yeah. Seriously, 90 days. And I think that's best case scenario. Everybody loves me. Some of y'all looking at 2 weeks. Yeah. So 90 days, and I'm at a max stop. I've lost so much blood because I really overextended myself. And I'm shaking, and I'm nauseous, and, the police picks me up. Now, things actually get better after that. So I know the story sounds bad, but it actually gets really good. That officer takes me to a homeless shelter. That's not the good part. That actually sucked. The good part was the first day in the shelter, after I wake up the next morning, I meet with a housing advocate, and they write me an award letter, a grant that's going to pay rent anywhere I want to live in Multnomah County. Anywhere I want to go up to like $1,200 or something, I think it was. So I'm on cloud 9. This is the best day ever. I'm finally about to be in my own place again. I'm on websites looking at different places, and I find the perfect place, and I ran out there and I fill out an application fee, pay my $50, and I apply. I get a call back the next day saying, hey, Tyrone, we're sorry to let you know you don't qualify for this property. I'm like, what? I don't qualify? I was slightly irritated. You kept my $50, that's cool. I'm going to go to the next place, and I applied to my second favorite property. And then they called me the next day and said, I don't qualify. I'm denied. And it happened again, the third property, the fourth property, the fifth property. I borrow so much money. The shelter's paid for me a couple application fees. I don't have the ability to do anymore. And I don't have any place or any idea how to qualify for a place. So I didn't really understand how it worked at that time, but I had an eviction, on my credit because I got put out of my last place. I had property debt because I didn't pay rent for a while. I had, my credit was damaged because I had all these accounts on there from when I was in the shelter. I had all these rental barriers, but I didn't understand how it worked back then. So now I don't care where I live. I'm literally applying any place I can see. I actually drive all the way out there, catch the bus all to Vancouver because there's rumors of these apartments that don't check for anything. They just let anybody rent. I don't even know how I'm gonna live there. These places is dumps. I'm applying in places with green carpet, yellow stoves. It looked like, Dr. Seuss's old house, and I don't even care. I will live here if you approve me. Denied. All right? So now weeks go by. I'm not even applying to properties anymore. I'm just in the shelter. And one day, I'm coming back to the shelter, and there's this woman putting the yard sign in the ground, okay? Never forget that. And it says for rent. Now, I asked if I can tour the property. It's a townhouse. It's about an 8-plex. I go through, and it's actually one of the nicer properties I've seen. So she gave me a tour, and I asked, what's the application fee? She said $25. That's about half the cost of a normal place. So I get a little excited, a little bit of energy to do this again. So I said, I'm gonna figure it out. I've already burned every bridge, but I call every person I know to get that $25, and I come up with it. And I run back there, and I apply, and I'm still the first applicant. And then my phone rings the next day. Here I go. I'm ready for it. So I'm pumping myself up. Her name's on there. We're going to go to war this time because I'm not going to get denied. I got my transcripts. I was a great student. I got all these things I'm about to pitch to her. And right when I answer the phone, she's like, hey, Tyrone, I want to let you know you're approved. Woo! Approved. And I remember thinking, like, why did you approve me? What? I had so many questions that when I actually met her in person the next day filling out the paperwork, I asked her, why did you approve me? I had an eviction, I got property debt, I got horrible credit, I got all this stuff. I ain't gonna lie to you, I ain't say it just like that. I wanted to keep that place just in case she didn't actually check all that stuff. But I did ask her, why'd you approve me? And what she said to me changed everything. She said, honey, I'm not sure what you're talking about. You just met our screening criteria. That was it. No sad story, no nothing. I just met their criteria. That was the first time that I was introduced to this algorithm that all of these management companies use to determine eligibility for their properties. So she gave me a copy, and I ran it back to the shelter, and I started breaking it down. I was like, okay, how did I qualify for this place? And it's like, you can't have more than 5 accounts in collections. Well, I'm thinking, man, I got way more than 5 accounts in collections. But then it says, we don't consider medical debt. And I'm like, oh. It said you can have an eviction within 1 year as long as you pay a double deposit. And I'm like, that's why I'm only getting 11 months of rent instead of 12, because one had to go to additional deposit. All this stuff, and it started to make sense why they were screening that way. So months go by. I'm actually a volunteer at the Y. I volunteer there full time for 6 months. I can't get a job, so I might as well volunteer, right? They actually get a grant that allows me to work there, and I get hired on for another year after that. But during that time, I'm on the other side of the table. So I'm actually giving out housing grants. I'm meeting with families all the time. And I'm meeting with, and I can tell literally who's going to qualify for a place just by talking to them, because they will come in and they will say, they'll give me a big hug and it'll be tears. And I'm so glad my boyfriend, the police got called every other week until they evicted us, and he punched holes in the wall. And other family housing advocates would say, oh, don't worry, it's going to be over. Now you got this grant. But I knew that when they were talking to me, I would hear different stuff because I knew the screening criteria. I'm thinking, you got an eviction. all those complaints, that's non-compliance, that punched holes, you owe property debt. And in my mind, I'm thinking you qualify for so little of the market that you're never gonna find a home. 50% of our vouchers got denied. But it wasn't just us. A lot of other programs couldn't get their people housed. Section 8 at that point had a 40% failure rate. Vast Voucher for Homeless Vets had a 50% failure rate. All of us running around trying to find a home, nobody can figure out how. But I had an idea from when I went through my own trauma. Then I get the opportunity, okay? Portland Housing Bureau, or Prosper Portland, put out a solicitation that basically said, we're looking for any ideas that concerning housing, medical, food, all these things. And I take them up on it. I show up, I buy my polo shirt, I get off the bus, I got my tablet, And I remember walking through the parking lot and seeing, cars wrapped in company logos and all this stuff, and I'm thinking, oh my God, they're so much further along than me. I get inside, people got matching t-shirts and teams, and now I'm thinking, I just wasted $125. Seriously. But I got my chance to pitch my idea. So I'm gonna pitch it to you the same way I pitched it to Prosper Portland, okay? I live in a shelter right now, or work in a shelter that has 46 families. Every single one has a letter that pays rent anywhere they wanna live. Half of them will be back in their cars at the end of this month. But if you funded me, I would go out and collect the unique screening criteria of all 150 management companies that represent Oregon, put them in one database, and then allow a renter to pull their background check and filter against every single vacancy in the state at the exact same time. And I won. All right. Yeah. And not only did I win, but we built it. And right now, that site is live. You pulling the background check on our new platform that went live December 12th is literally the equivalent of spending $200,000 in application fees and going around and filling out applications, individual properties for 11 years. Done in 22 seconds from your mobile phone. The first day that I went into the shelter, I will never forget it. I remember laying on my cot, and I remember that I broke down for the very first time. I really realized that this wasn't just gonna go away. I remember the throw up in my shirt burned so bad, made my nose burn that I turned my shirt backwards. I went to sleep, and as bad as my situation is, I still wouldn't have traded places with a whole bunch of people in there. There were women in there with children and husbands with children that they had to put their kids to bed in cots. There was women hiding from domestic violence to where every time the door slammed, they jumped, because they were terrified. Everybody just needing a home. And since our site went live December 12th, we've shown over 5,000 people how to get there. And we won't be done until this software is running in every city in the United States of America. So I want you to take a look at me. What do I look like? What do I sound like? Do I represent the person that you expected to solve this access to housing problem? When you see me, do you think beautiful, brilliant, genius? Yeah. Right. Hey, it sounds like you do. Right. But I'm pretty polished these days, 40 under 40, fifth most promising tech startup in the world. These days I'm cooler than a polar bear's ass cheeks. But what if it was him? When you see him, do you still think brilliant? Do you still think genius? You should, because that's the one who solved the problem. Working at Amazing Grace Family Resource Center at that time. So, for everybody out here in power, whether it's your small business or big company, or the cities, if you're trying to solve big problems for cities, I need you to make sure that all of your solicitations go deep into different communities because there's so much value in there. Those people don't look at problems the same way you do. Their experiences have created a different lens. And so they will come with different solutions. I'll give you a secret. The people who don't even know what the box looks like always think outside of it. All right. And to all the entrepreneurs, I know it can be challenging because a lot of times you don't see yourself on these teams that have been tasked to solve some of the world's biggest problems. Nobody on there looks like you. And so you feel like you don't belong there. But I'm here to tell you that's not the truth. All those teams are incomplete. And until you show up, those teams won't be a full team. And if you see me on stage right now, then the real truth is those teams are all missing their MVPs. Right? It's not always the degrees. Sometimes it's the pain, it's the turmoil, it's the way that every single day you have to live in a workaround to the problem that makes you uniquely qualified to solve it. The end.